Welcome to another deep dive. Today we'll be exploring the world of biotechnology.
It's a fascinating field.
It really is. And for our deep dive today, we'll be using this 12th grade biology textbook as our guide.
Sounds good.
So we're going to be talking about everything from enzymes to biopesticides to genetic modification.
Oh, wow. A lot to cover.
There is, but that's why we're here, the deep dive.
Okay, let's get into it.
Awesome. Did you know that the same technologies used to modify crops can also be used to create medicines? Life-saving medicines.
It's incredible how far biotechnology has come.
It really is. And in this deep dive, we'll really be focusing on how scientists are applying these principles to solve real-world problems, like coming up with innovative solutions.
Yeah.
So let's start with enzymes.
Right.
They're often called nature's tiny factories, but what makes them so special?
Well, enzymes are basically proteins that act as catalysts.
Catalysts.
Yeah, like they speed up chemical reactions without being consumed themselves.
So they can be used over and over again.
Exactly. It's like having a tiny worker that can do a specific job again and again and again without getting tired.
So they're like little machines, efficient little machines.
Yeah.
And we can actually produce these enzymes on a large scale, right?
Yeah, that's right. We use a process called fermentation. It involves microorganisms like bacteria and fungi.
So like brewing beer.
Kind of, except instead of alcohol, we're getting enzymes as a byproduct.
So we're kind of harnessing the power of these microorganisms to create these valuable enzymes.
Yeah, in a way.
But how do we actually get the enzymes out?
Well, it depends
On what?
on where the enzyme is produced. So if it's outside the microorganism, we can just filter it out.
Oh, okay.
But if the enzymes are produced inside the microorganism, then we have to break open the cells to release the enzymes.
Interesting. So once we have these enzymes, what can we actually do with them?
Oh, there are so many applications. Think about laundry detergent.
Oh, okay.
Some of them contain enzymes.
Really?
Yeah, and they break down stains at lower temperatures.
So you get cleaner clothes and you save energy.
Exactly. A win-win.
Totally. What are some other ways enzymes are used?
Well, they're used in the leather industry. They're used in the food industry, for example, as flavor enhancers in cheese.
Huh. I never would have thought of that.
And they're used to clarify juices, and even in producing glucose from starch.
Wow. So I encounter enzymes in more products than I probably realize.
Probably, yeah.
So what about biopesticides? They seem to be getting a lot of attention lately.
Yeah, they are. Biopesticides are a great way to use nature's own defenses for pest control.
Okay.
They utilize microorganisms, like bacteria, viruses, and fungi, to target specific pests.
So it's a more eco-friendly approach than using chemical pesticides.
Exactly.
So instead of spraying crops with harsh chemicals, we're using these tiny warriors to do the job for us.
Yeah.
Can you give us some examples?
Sure. One well-known example is Bacillus thuringiensis, often called bleat.
Please.
It produces toxins that are lethal to certain insect larvae, but harmless to humans and other animals. So it can be used on a variety of crops to protect them from pests.
It's like a little targeted strike force against those pesky larvae.
It is.
Are there other bacteria out there that we can use like that?
Oh, yeah. For example, we have Bacillus papiliae. It's specifically used against Japanese beetle larvae.
Oh, those things are the worst.
They can be a real headache for gardeners.
For sure.
And then there's Pseudomonas fluorescens, which, similar to blint, helps protect maize crops from black cutworms, I think.
It seems like bacteria are the real MVPs in the biopesticide world.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing.
What about viruses and fungi? Do they play a role too?
Oh, they do. Viruses can be very effective, and they offer a more targeted approach, going after specific insect pests
Oh, okay.
and minimizing harm to beneficial insects.
Like ladybugs.
Yeah, like ladybugs. And fungi are also really fascinating. They often infiltrate their targets and disable them.
Interesting.
For example, there's Boviaria bassiana, which is used to control Colorado potato beetle.
It's amazing how these tiny organisms can have such a powerful impact on agriculture.
It is.
So what I'm really curious about is genetic modification. Our textbook mentions something called glyphosate-resistant crops. What's the story there?
Well, glyphosate is a herbicide. It's very effective for killing weeds, but it can also harm crops.
Ah, I see.
So scientists have found a way to engineer crops to be resistant to glyphosate,
Meaning?
meaning that farmers can use it to control weeds without damaging their crops.
That sounds like a game changer for agriculture.
It is. It's a really important tool for farmers.
So how do they make crops resistant to glyphosate?
Well, it involves taking a gene from a bacterium that can naturally break down glyphosate.
Huh.
and transferring it into the plant's DNA.
So we're essentially giving these plants a genetic shield against the herbicide.
That's a good way to put it. Scientists use a special tool called a plasmid. It acts like a delivery system for genes. They insert the glyphosate resistance gene into this plasmid and then introduce it into plant cells. The cells that successfully incorporate this gene become resistant to glyphosate. And from those cells, they can regenerate entire plants.
It's like creating a new generation of super plants.
It is pretty amazing technology.
But I imagine there are concerns about these genetically modified crops, right?
Yeah, there are. One concern is that pests could evolve resistance to the herbicide,
Oh,
just like bacteria can become resistant to antibiotics.
right.
And another concern is the potential impact on non-target insects and the possibility of those modified genes spread into other plants.
These are all important considerations when evaluating this technology.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a balancing act, weighing the potential benefits against the risks.
That's right.
But before we dive deeper into genetically modified organisms, let's switch gears and talk about pest-resistant crops. How do they differ from these glyphosate-resistant crops?
So, while both involve genetic modification, pest-resistant crops are designed to produce their own natural pesticides,
Okay.
eliminating the need for external chemical applications.
So the plants become their own little pesticide factories.
You could say that.
That's incredible. What kind of plants are we talking about?
Well, one of the most well-known is blight corn.
Blighthorn.
Yeah. Remember that bacterium, Bacillus thuringiensis?
Yeah.
Scientists have taken the gene responsible for producing its insect-killing toxins and inserted it into corn plants. Now, the corn itself produces the toxin, effectively fighting off pests like the corn borer.
It's like giving corn plants their own built-in defense system.
That's right.
Are there other examples of this type of pest-resistant technology?
Absolutely. Blight cotton is another one. It's protected against the boll weevil.
Oh, the boll weevil. I've heard about that one.
It's a big problem for cotton farmers.
So this technology leads to higher crop yields and less reliance on chemical pesticides. A win for everyone.
I think so.
Definitely. This biotechnology seems pretty adaptable. Are there other plants that have received this genetic upgrade?
Yes. Scientists have also developed insect-resistant tobacco. It fights the tobacco budworm.
Tobacco budworm.
That's right. But this particular crop hasn't been commercialized yet,
Oh, really?
probably due to the various complexities surrounding tobacco as a product.
That makes sense. So we have these pest-resistant crops, which sound amazing, but are there any potential downsides? It seems like with every solution, there's always a new challenge waiting around the corner.
You bring up a good point. One concern is the possibility of pests evolving resistance to the biotoxins over time.